Hello everybody, today we're going to take a look at how to create our 3D cube assembly using the gray block and the blue block that we just got done drawing. Remember, at any point in time you can pause, you can fast forward, you can rewind. If you didn't quite finish this in class, I can take you through if you follow my steps and we'll get your 3D cube drawn. Okay, so to begin, I'm going to touch my home button and it's going to take me and I'm going to launch my Citrix Workspace app. Once again, I'm going to touch on the orange capital letter I, which is Autodesk Inventor, and it's going to load up for us. Every time that you go in, you have to take and enter in your username and credentials, or username and password. Your username is your first initial last name 000, and then your password is your lunch code plus your 3-letter safe word. So go ahead and enter yours in. When you're finished with that, touch on the blue bar to sign in, and then Inventor is going to launch. Once Inventor comes up, once again we want to prepare ourselves. So I'm going to pull down this black shade that's at the top and I'm going to get my keyboard open. And remember, we want to have that keyboard pinned. So I want to take and have that pin in the right hand side. Let me show you where that is. So when the keyboard's up, right over here is a pin. We want to make sure that that is blue to keep that pinned. Okay, and then that keyboard shortcuts are going to be at the top. Once you have that done, lower your keyboard and again pull down the shade and you can get your pointer. Okay, we want our pointer on the screen, and I'm going to come around and I'm going to go to the ribbon bar at the top. That's this area at the top of the screen, and we're going to select new. From our menu here, we drew those blocks in standard.ipt. We're going to do an assembly, so I want you to click standard.iam, this one right here, and we're going to select create. Our ribbon bar at the top is going to look a little bit different since we have assembly commands up here. So I'm going to come up to the top, and I think yours ends up opening up, and mine says place here, but I think yours on this split button here, yours says place from content center. If yours says place from content center, we just want to select that and then change it to place. Okay? Then it should automatically go to your H drive, but if it does not, you're going to take this pull down area right here and you're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom to first initial last name 000. It has this gray box with the green line underneath of it, and that's going to take you to your H drive. Okay, once you're in your H drive, you should see your gray block and your blue block. We're going to select our gray block first, and we're going to come down to the bottom window and we're going to touch to open. Now I have that gray block attached to my cursor. I'm going to touch the screen in order to place it. And I also, if I move my mouse, I have another gray block that's automatically attached to it. But down here in the bottom for our keyboard shortcuts, there's the escape key right there. I want to touch the escape key, and that lets go of everything that we're holding. Next, we need to get some room for us in order to take and get the blue block in there. So I'm going to put my pointer down, so I don't have my pointer on the screen. I'm going to use my thumb and my finger in order to pinch the screen in order to zoom. Okay? So you put your 2 fingers on the screen and spread them apart, and that zooms you out. Now I have some area. Let me get my pointer again. Now I have some white space area, some working space going around here. Okay, with that extra room now, I'm going to come back up to my ribbon bar at the top, and I'm going to click on the place again. And I'm going to go get my blue block. Okay, when my blue block is selected, I'm going to click open. Touch on the screen in order to place it, and you can see there's another one attached to my cursor. So down here in the keyboard shortcuts, right down here, we're going to take and we're going to press that escape key to let go of that. Okay? Next, in order to keep things from moving around on us, we're going to ground the gray block. In order to do that, I'm going to come up to the shade. I'm going to drop my pointer and I'm going to get my mouse. Okay? I only use the mouse when I have to use the right click. So I'm going to bring my cursor over here to that gray block. Okay, see the pointer up there is on the gray block. It's on the icon itself. I'm going to right click. That brings up this window, and I'm going to come down to where it says grounded right here. Once I see grounded, I'm going to left click to select that. Then I'm going to get my pointer tool back. Okay, you can see the difference between this gray block and a blue block is this gray block now has a little push pin in it. Okay, it's grounded. Next, we're going to start constraining these two blocks together with one another. So I'm going to come up to the top and I'm going to go to my constrain area right up here in the top in river bar. There are two buttons that we're going to be using here. One of them is mate. You can see when you hover over the top of them that it comes up and tells you what it is. The other one is flush. Okay, I'm going to select mate to begin with. To constrain this, I'm going to bring my cursor and put it on the surface of this gray block right here. Okay, it's the narrow end. Click to select it. You can tell it's selected because it highlights blue and that red indicator arrow points there. The next thing I'm going to do is come over to my blue block. I don't want to be on the end, I want to be on one of the long sides. For right now, you can choose either long side, it does not matter. Just make sure you're on the surface and then touch the screen to select it. Then we're going to come up to the top and we're going to switch to the flush command. Now, you can see how flush command, it put it inside of one another. Let's bring it back to the mate command. And the reason that happened is because we did not click apply yet. But if you end up taking and clicking flush before we click apply, it's not a big deal. We just go back and select mate. That flips it back on the outside. Select apply. And then we're going to come up to the top and we're going to select flush next. Okay? Now what we want to do is we want to turn this blue bar, this blue block, so it goes vertical. In order to do that, I'm going to select the top of my gray block. Okay, you can see the arrow pointing up. And I want to select the skinny end, the short end of the gray block right here. When I touch, it's going to slide that blue block vertical. Next, I'm going to come over and I'm going to flush one more time. Select flush. I need to click apply first. Okay, click apply first, and then you're going to select flush again. And we're going to come over and we're going to select the right side of my gray block. Now, how do I know this is the right side? Because if I look in my world cube up here, do you see how it says top, front, and right? And each of those surfaces correspond with the surface here. So I'm going to select my right side of my gray block. And I'm going to select the right side of my blue block, and that should line these two up together with our three constraints. You got to have three constraints. Here we just did one mate and two flushes. And let's not forget, go up to the top in this window and select apply as well. Okay, next I'm going to press cancel to close this window out. I'm going to go home in my world view cube, select home, and then in this navigation bar on the right hand side here, I'm going to go down to where I see this little orbit tool. Okay, that's our rotate tool. I'm going to touch on that to select, and you can see it kind of puts up a little scope on our screen. I'm going to put my cursor inside that little ring, and I'm going to touch on the screen, hold the screen, and I'm going to rotate this so that I can see the inside of that block. Okay, when I'm finished, I can press the escape key down here in the bottom, right down here. Now, what I see is I see the surface where I want to attach the gray cube to, and I also see the bottom narrow edge of my block. Okay, so let's now go get another gray block. Select place from the room bar at the top, this folder on the far left hand side, and I'm going to go get another gray block. Select open, and I'm going to put my gray block kind of where I want it to go. Touch to place it, and since I have another gray block attached to my cursor, just like I did before, down here on my keyboard shortcut, I'm going to press the escape key. Now we're going to constrain these two together as well. So I'm going to constrain. Remember, we always want to have three constraints to lock a piece in. Usually it's going to be one mate and two flushes. So I'm going to mate first. That's this button here, mate. And I want to mate the long side of my blue block. Select somewhere down here towards the bottom. Make sure you're on the surface, not on an edge. Touch to select it. That arrow is going to stay there. And then I'm going to select the narrow end of my gray block right here. This is not the long end that's getting put on, it's the narrow end. Once you're arrow indicator is on the narrow end, touch to select it, it's going to flip that block around. Now we're going to come up and select apply. So that was our mate. Now we need to do 2 flushes. We're going to select our flush tool first, and we're going to come down here, and I'm going to select the long side of my blue bar, touch to select it, and I'm going to select this long side of my gray bar. These 2 surfaces, the arrows are pointing in the same direction, touch to select it. We're going to come up to the top and select apply. Next, we want to take and we want to line up the 2 bottom edges of this blocks. So the bottom of the gray and the bottom of the blue. In order to do that, I'm going to select flush again from my menu, come down, and I want to get the bottom of my blue. See how that arrow is pointing down? And I want to select the bottom of my gray. Make sure those arrows are pointing in the same direction. Touch to select it, and now you can see that they're all lined up. Let's click apply. And I'm going to select cancel. Get my rotate window back up. Get my cursor inside the screen, and you can see when I turn this around that that is lined up with 3 constraints. Okay? Next, I'm going to rotate this around so that I can see the 2 edges of my screen. So let's go home first, then we'll rotate it. Okay, so I'm going to get my rotate tool after selecting home, put my cursor on the inside of that circle, and I'm going to touch and drag directly to the left with my cursor. Okay, once I have that done, press the escape key to let go of my rotate. Now I have the 2 narrow ends here and here to place my other blue block on. So here I'm going to come up to the top in the ribbon bar. I'm going to select place. I'm going to get my blue block. Click open. I'm going to place my blue block kind of where it's going to go. It has another one selected or attached to my cursor, so I'm going to press the escape key in my keyboard shortcuts. And now we're going to take and we're going to make this and flush it. So we're doing that, we're going to use our constraints again. We're going to come down and we're going to select mate. And here I want to mate the narrow end of my gray block. You can see that it's highlighted blue and it has the indicator arrow on it. And then I'm going to take a long side of my blue block. That's going to put them together. Click apply. I'm going to click home so you guys can see what we're all looking at. Okay, so it's going the wrong direction. That's not a big deal. We'll turn it around when we do the flushes. So I'm switching from mate to flush. And here I want to turn this, so I want the narrow end of the blue block, just like this one is here, narrow end of the blue block to be flush to the top of this gray block. When I touch it, it's going to flip that blue block up. Let's click apply. We want one more flush and to bring this blue block forward again. So we're going to flush, and I want the right side of this blue block to be flush to the right side of this gray block. Do you see how those 2 arrows are pointing the same direction? Touch to select it. Click apply. Press cancel. And now we're going to go home. Okay, we're going to start in the back and put another gray block up here, and then we're going to go to another gray block down here. I'm going to click place, get my gray block, select open. I'm going to press 1 gray block right there. Coming down, since it's still attached to me, I'm going to press the escape that's down here in the lower corner of my keyboard shortcuts. And now we're going to constrain this block. I'm going to constrain. I want to mate. I want to mate the narrow end of the gray block. And we're going to put this one down here in the bottom. Okay? When we do the top one, we're going to click up here in the top, but this is the bottom one. We're going to click down here towards the bottom. Basically, you want to click where you want it to go. Once you have that indicated, touch the screen to select it. That mates it. Now we have to click apply, and now we have to add our 2 flushes. Remember, there's always 1 mate, 2 flushes. In order to do that though, we're going to put this constrain window away, and I need to turn this and rotate it. Get my rotate tool. I'm going to come down to the bottom of the screen, or bottom of the window, but my cursor is still inside, and I'm going to touch, and I'm going to flip this around, go slowly so that I can see the bottom and the right side of this block. I'm going to press the escape key down here in the bottom to let go of my rotate or orbit tool. And now I'm going to go get my constrain window again. We already did the mate, so now we're going to switch over to our flush. We're going to come down and we want to flush the bottom of the blue to the bottom of this gray block. That lines those up, and we're going to select apply. We also need to take and line up the side here and the side of the blue. So in order to do that, we're going to need a flush again. We want the right side of that gray block and this side of the blue. Do you notice how the arrows are pointing in the same direction? Once they do, touch the screen to select it. Click apply. Press cancel. And now we're going to go home. Okay, so we have that one attached. Next, we're going to take and put another one up here. We're going to go place in our ribbon bar. Go get your gray block. Select open. And we're going to take this gray block and kind of place it where we want it to be. Touch the screen to place it. I still have another one that's attached to my cursor, so I'm going to touch the escape key in the bottom. Oops, do you see how I accidentally put an extra one on there? Not a big deal. I can either go up to the top and select undo up here, or I can come down to the bottom of my keyboard shortcut, touch undo to put that one in. Okay? Now we're going to come up to the top in our ribbon bar, and we're going to select constrain. That happened a little quick. Let me show you where that is again. Right here is constrain. Remember, we want 3 constraints, 1 mate, 2 flushes. So we're going to mate, and I want to mate the narrow end of my gray block. Oops, I got an extra one in there. So I'm going to undo again one more time. Okay, so I have 2 gray blocks here. Okay, those are 2 that we're working on. You can see everything in the browser over here. I accidentally touched and put one on top of the other. So now let's go up to our constraint. We're going to constrain. We want that mate still, the narrow end of the gray. And I want to place it, click where I place or want it to go. So I don't want it in the middle of my blue block. I want it up somewhere towards here where it belongs. So I'm going to touch the screen where its indicator is, and that puts it on there. Bring your cursor over, we're going to select apply, and now we want to do a flush. So let's do a flush, and I want to flush the front of my gray block to the front of the blue block. So that's this part right here. You see the arrows are going the same direction. Touch to select it, and that lines up the fronts. Make sure you click apply in between each one of these. We're going to flush again. We're going to flush the top narrow of the blue to the top of the gray. See how the indicator arrows are going the same direction? And then we're going to come over and select apply. Press cancel. Okay. Now we're going to need another blue block right here. So let's go up to the top, go to place. Let's go get our blue block. Select open. And we're going to put it kind of where we want it. Touch the screen to place it. And you can see I have another one attached to my cursor. We press escape in order to get rid of that. And now we're going to constrain this. Maybe before we do, I'm going to click my home view up here by our world view cube. Click your home. And that's going to zoom us out just a little bit. And then I'm going to constrain. Once again, we're going to start with that mate. We're going to lock the 2 pieces together. We're going to mate. And we're going to go from the narrow end of the gray. And we want to be on the long side of the blue. Select apply. Now we're going to switch to our flush. Remember, mate was number 1. Now we need 2 flushes. So now we're going to select flush. We're going to go to the narrow end of the blue. And we also want the long side of the gray with the arrow pointing up to the top of the gray block. Okay, select apply. Next, we want to take and push this blue block in so it's flush with this side of the gray. So we want this side of the gray, or so, sorry, this side of the blue. And we want the arrow going in the same direction. You see how these 2 arrows are going in the same direction of the gray block. Click apply. Cancel. Now we're going to need 2 more gray blocks right here. So let's go up to the top, go to place. Let's go get our gray block. Select open. I'm going to place this gray block kind of where we want it. Okay, you can be on this side or on this side, that's your choice. I still have another one attached to my cursor, so down in the bottom of my keyboard shortcuts, I'm going to press the escape key. I'm going to come up to the top to constrain again. First one is going to be a mate, so let's select mate. And what I want to do is I want to select the narrow end of my gray block, and I want to take and stick it or mate it to this inside of the blue. Select apply. Now we need our 2 flushes. So I'm going to select my flush. I want the top of this blue block flush to the top of this gray block. Click apply. Now we need our 3rd constraint, which is going to be another flush. Select flush. I want the right side of this blue block and the right side of the gray block flush. See how the arrow indicators are pointing the same direction? Okay, excellent. 1 more gray block to go. That's down here in the bottom corner. So let's press cancel. Go up to my constrain tool in my ribbon bar. From this menu, whoops, we need to get that other gray block first, don't we? So let's go place from the ribbon bar on the top. Let's go get another gray block. Select open. Bring this gray block to kind of where you want it. You can put it on the right side or over here. Either one doesn't matter. Your choice. I have another one attached to my cursor. Press that escape key again. I'm going to constrain, and I want to mate. I want to mate the narrow end of this gray block. And where do I want to mate it to? Where do I want to stick it to? I want to put it to the inside of this blue block, onto the front side. Make sure you're getting that arrow indicator kind of where you want it to go so that we don't have to move it around too much. Okay, next we're going to select apply. So that was our first constraint, which was mate. Now we need 2 flushes. So we're going to flush, and I want to flush the right side of this gray block to the right side of the blue block. That lines these 2 up. Let's not forget to click apply. And now we need the bottom of this gray block and the bottom of the blue block to be flush. In order to do that, we need to rotate this around. So select our rotator orbit tool from the side. Put your cursor inside the circle. We're going to touch and rotate this up. And go slowly. We just want to be able to see the bottom of that gray block and the blue block. So we want to see these 2 surfaces here. Okay. To get rid of our rotate, or to let go of our rotate tool, we're going to press the escape key down here in the bottom. That lets go of our rotate, and now we're going to get our flush. And I want to flush the bottom of this gray to the bottom of the blue. Select apply. Press cancel. And now let's get rotated right now and go to our world view cube and select home. And that'll turn us back to our proper view. Okay, we need 1 more blue block in here, and then we're getting closer to being done. Let's select place. Grab your blue block. Select open. And I'm going to put my blue block somewhere down here. Okay. I still have another one attached to my cursor. Select the escape key. And I'm going to click home just so I can get everything in view. Okay, that's home is up here by your world view cube. Now let's take and get this block attached and turn it the right direction. So I want to constrain, and I want to mate first. 3 constraints. Usually we're going to start with a mate. And I want to mate the long side of my blue block. And where do I want it to go to? I want it to go to the narrow end of this gray block. Select apply. And now we're going to change over to our flush command, our flush tool. And I want to flush the top of my blue block to the top of the gray block. You see how the arrow indicators are going in the correct direction, or the same direction. That's going to flush those 2 surfaces. Select apply. Now we're going to flush again. I want to flush the right side of my blue block. Remember again, the right side I can tell by looking at my world view cube here. This is front and right. So I want the right side of my blue block and the right side of my gray block. See how the arrow indicators are going the same direction? Press cancel. We need to press apply first. Can't forget that apply. Let's try that again. Click flush. I want to flush the right side of my blue block, right side of my gray block. Let's click apply on the first time here. Now let's click cancel. Okay, we have 2 more blue blocks to add in. This one at the top and 1 more at the bottom. So let's go up and get our place. Come down in a gray block. Select open. Put it kind of up where we want it. Touch to select it. You can see we have another one attached. You can press escape. And now let's constrain. We're going to mate. We're going to mate the skinny end of this gray block. And where do I want it to go? I want it to go to the top area up here by my blue block. Click to place it. Now we're going to switch over. Whoops, we're going to click apply first. Don't forget that. Then we're going to switch to flush. And let's see what we want to flush here. I want flush top of the blue, top of the gray. Arrow indicators are going the same direction. Click apply. And I want the front of my blue. See where my arrow indicator is? And the front of my gray. Arrow indicators are going both the same direction. Click apply. Press cancel. 1 more gray block to go. That's down here in the bottom. Click place. Let's go get that last gray block. Open. Place it somewhere where we want it to go. Still have another one attached to our cursor. Press the escape key. We're going to come up to the top, constrain, and we're going to mate. We're going to mate the end of this gray block to the inside of this blue block right here. Now remember, click where you kind of want it to go. That's going to flip it into place. Click apply. Now we're going to change to flush. And from here we can take and flush the front of my gray block and the front of my blue block. Click apply. Press cancel. And now we need to flip this around again in order to get the bottoms. So let's get our orbit tool or our rotate tool. Bring your cursor into that circle. And we're going to rotate that up. Okay, just enough so we can see the bottoms down here. Over here, I'm going to press escape to let go of my rotate. And get that last constraint on there, which is going to be a flush. Click the bottom of the gray block, bottom of the blue block. That flushes the bottoms. Select apply. Press cancel. Let's go home. Congratulations, you're done. Let's take and save this. Let's go up to File, orange file in the top left-hand corner of our screen. We're going to go down to Save As. Make sure this is going into your H drive. First initial last name 000. If it doesn't automatically come up, when you touch on the pull-down arrow here, it should be right down here towards the bottom. The gray block with the green line underneath of it. Okay? And we're going to take where it says assembly 2, put your cursor in there. We're going to bring up our keyboard and we're going to enter in cube assembly. Okay, so I have cube assembly added in there. Oops, I got an extra E in there. So let's bring my cursor over, bring my keyboard back up again. Going to backspace that out of there. Cube assembly. Okay, once you have cube assembly entered in, select save. Congratulations, nice job. You have your cube assembly done. Now we're going to move on to the next one in the next video. Nice job on the cube assembly. Great to see you, and we'll see you in class next time.